There comes a moment in life not with fireworks, but with silence when you look around and realize you've been drifting. Days blur into weeks, and somewhere in the noise of the world, you lost your inner signal. You tell yourself you'll change tomorrow. But tomorrow is the most dangerous drug. It keeps you numb and postpones your resurrection. This challenge isn't about motivation. Motivation is fleeting. This is about focus, the rare and sacred discipline of giving your full attention to what truly matters. 21 days. That's all we're asking. Not for perfection, but for presence. If you're ready, then commit to this journey not just with your hands, but with your soul. The first and most dangerous illusion we often fall prey to is the belief that we must wait for the perfect moment to begin. We convince ourselves that clarity must come before commitment, that conditions must be ideal, and that somehow, one day, the stars will align and we will finally feel ready. But this is a fantasy woven by fear. Readiness is not a gift that arrives in the mail of time. It does not knock on your door one morning with a cup of coffee and say, "Now is the time." Readiness is a decision made in the dark. There will always be reasons to wait. Responsibilities, fatigue, doubt, the weather, the economy, the pain of your pasts, these will all raise their hands like false prophets, telling you that tomorrow is better. But tomorrow is a seductive liar. It gives you permission to remain asleep while pretending you have a plan. What you really have is hesitation dressed as hope. In truth, the moment of change arrives silently. It does not come with a grand parade, but with a whisper that says, "Enough." That's how transformation begins. Not with certainty, but with courage. Consider the case of Thomas. He wasn't a leader, or a guru, or someone trained in personal development. He was just a man who had made too many promises to himself that he hadn't kept. A recovering alcoholic, he had tried plans before. Programs, accountability partners, strategies written neatly in notebooks that always ended up forgotten under his bed. But none of them worked. Not because the plans were weak, but because his decision was never full. And then one day, he stood before his bathroom mirror, bloodshot eyes staring into his own reflection. There was no music, no motivational quote, no external pressure, just silence. He looked at himself, not the way we glance, but the way we see when we can no longer lean, said 2 words, "I'm done." That moment changed his life. Not because he had figured out a blueprint for sobriety, not because he had enlisted a coach, but because he decided with every cell in his body to stop betraying himself. This is how day 1 begins. Not with organization, but with truth, with facing the self, stripped of pretense and plans, and choosing deeply and with conviction to move forward anyway. Psychological research from the University of London has shown that new habits can begin forming in as little as 21 days. But time alone means nothing without intention. People go 21 years without changing, and some go 21 days and are reborn. The difference is not the calendar. The difference is choice. To begin without a plan feels risky, but it is not reckless. It is honest. Because no plan survives contact with the realities of life. Life is messy, unpredictable, and full of curveballs. If you wait to be sure, you'll be waiting forever. But if you act from the gut, from that primal part of you that knows the cost of delay, you create a force inside yourself that no obstacle can stand against. Start messy. Begin afraid. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take one honest step forward. What derails most people is not their lack of strategy, it's their addiction to perfection. They want to get it right from the start, forgetting that the start is never about being right, it's about being real. The mind will always look for safety, for systems and certainty. But growth comes from the soul, and the soul speaks in the language of surrender. Surrender not in weakness, but in willingness to be reshaped, to fail, to learn, to rise again. Each time you delay your beginning, you reinforce the identity of someone who waits. But each time you decide to act, even in small ways, you begin writing a new story. One of movement, of possibility, of quiet revolution. Don't underestimate the power of one decisive moment. The day you stop negotiating with your excuses, the day you stop rehearsing the pain of the past, the day you stop waiting for motivation and realize that discipline is simply a decision you remake every morning. That day is day one, and it doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. Focus is often mistaken for a skill of the intellect, a sharpening of the mind, a trick to increase productivity, a tactic to get more done in less time. But that view is shallow. True focus is not born in the mind alone. It rises from the depths of the soul. It is not merely about what we think it is, about who we are. To focus is to enter into alignment with oneself, to bring the scattered fragments of your being into one clear, burning direction. It is not a task. It is a way of being. Most people live fragmented lives. Their bodies are in one place, their thoughts in another, their hearts elsewhere entirely. They move through their days on autopilot, responding to demands, reacting to stimuli, pulled by invisible strings they never stop to examine. They wonder why they feel anxious, exhausted, and unfulfilled. But they rarely ask the real question: where is my attention? Attention is the doorway through which your life flows. Whatever you give it to, you nourish. And in today's world, that doorway is under siege. Your phone vibrates, your screen lights up. Advertisements scream for your energy. People ask for things they do not need. Tasks pile up like waves crashing over a fragile mind. You don't lose focus in a single moment. You bleed it out slowly. One scroll, one distraction, one meaningless conversation at a time. Try just once to sit in silence for 5 uninterrupted minutes. Not doing, not planning, not escaping, just sitting. Within seconds, you will begin to hear it, the voice of your inner chaos. A swirl of thoughts, doubts, anxieties, stories unfinished, regrets unresolved. This is the noise beneath the noise. This is the world you live in when you're not paying attention. And it is this very world that focus begins to heal. Focus is not a simple act of narrowing your thoughts. It is a confrontation with every part of you that prefers comfort over growth, distraction over presence, escape over transformation. When you decide to focus, you are declaring war on the parts of you that have kept you asleep. This is why focus feels difficult, not because it is unnatural, but because it demands truth. It demands that you look at your life with clear, unflinching eyes and ask, am I living with intention, or am I simply reacting? Most do not want to ask this question because the answer is sobering. To focus is to strip away the layers of illusion we wrap ourselves in, layers that tell us we're too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed. But beneath them is the reality that we choose what we give our lives to every single day. Every time you check your phone without purpose, you are voting for distraction. Every time you say yes to what doesn't matter, you are abandoning what does. These are not harmless acts. They are spiritual leaks, small betrayals of the self that, over time, form a chasm between who you are and who you could be. The most successful, grounded, and powerful people do not have more time or more talent. They have less noise. They are not superhuman. They are simply devoted. Devoted to their craft, to their path, to their values. They understand that the world will try to steal their focus every minute of every day, and so they protect it as something sacred, because it is. You must learn to do the same. Guard your focus as you would guard a flame in the wind. You cannot control the wind, but you can shield the fire. You can create rituals, routines, spaces that protect what is holy within you. You can say no not out of arrogance, but out of reverence. You can simplify not to have less, but to become more. To focus is to return to yourself. To stop scattering your energy across 1,000 meaningless distractions and begin to pour it, drop by drop, into the life you are meant to live. Not later, not someday, now. Because when your attention is whole, your life becomes whole. When your inner and outer worlds align, a kind of quiet power is born, and from that place, anything becomes possible. When a life begins to feel broken or without direction, it rarely happens from a single catastrophic moment. More often, it's the slow unraveling of unspoken truths, the silent weight of emotions left unexpressed, the quiet decay of dreams we set aside just for now and never return to. It is not the dramatic events that erode our foundations, but the daily refusals to confront what we know deep down needs to be faced. We believe we are avoiding pain, but in truth, we are letting it accumulate beneath the surface, where it grows heavier and more complicated with time. You do not arrive at the point of collapse all at once. You get there one ignored truth at a time. One dismissed feeling, one difficult conversation left unsaid, one compromise of integrity here, one missed boundary there. These fragments, these little betrayals of self, gather quietly in the background of your existence until the weight becomes unbearable. Then one day you look around and wonder, how did it get this bad? But the truth is, you already knew. You just didn't want to look. It takes immense courage to face yourself, not the curated version you show the world, but the full, raw, untamed self that lives behind your daily performances. Rebuilding your life will not begin by looking at vision boards or reading affirmations. It begins when you gather enough strength to turn inward and face the shadow you've spent years trying to avoid. That shadow contains every part of you that you've rejected, every truth you've denied, every failure you refuse to acknowledge. But in that very darkness is the beginning of light. During this 21-day journey, the world may tell you to stay positive or keep moving forward, but those are only helpful if they are rooted in honesty. Forward movement is meaningless if you're dragging the past behind you like a silent weight. The truth is, you will need to pause. You will need to sit in the discomfort. You will need to revisit the things you hoped time would erase. Time, contrary to popular belief, does not heal wounds. What time does is hide them deeper. The human mind does not simply forget. It stores, it organizes, it waits. The research of Daniel Wegner in 2007 proved what many of us already feel but rarely understand. When we try to suppress thoughts or feelings, they do not disappear, they return with greater force. The more you avoid, the more power those inner demons gain. Denial, then, is not protection. It is prolonging your own suffering. So stop running. Stop pretending that your past does not matter, that your pain was small, or that it should be easy to move on. You are not weak because you still feel it. You are not broken because you carry heaviness. You are human. And your pain, if faced with courage, can become your most sacred teacher. Write down what hurts. Speak the truths that frighten you. Name the feelings you've tried to bury. This is not weakness, it is strength. The deepest healing does not come from forgetting, but from integrating. Only when you face what you've avoided can you begin to rewrite the narrative of your life. Every part of your story, even the parts you're ashamed of, has shaped you. Every disappointment, every mistake, every fear has given you a choice: free it or build from it. Pain is not the enemy. It is the blueprint for your rebirth. It shows you where you've abandoned yourself. It reveals what matters. It burns through illusion and brings clarity in its place. If you allow yourself to feel it, truly feel it, without judgment or escape, it will lead you to freedom. Not the shallow freedom of avoidance, but the deep liberation that comes from truth. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be healed before you begin. But you must be willing to see yourself clearly. No more hiding. No more postponing the life you know you are capable of living. These 21 days are not about perfection. They are about resurrection, about slowly, honestly, painfully choosing to stand again, not on a lie, but on the solid ground of truth. That is how you rebuild, not by becoming someone else, but by finally having the courage to meet the parts of yourself you left behind and bringing them home. Real change rarely arrives in a moment of lightning. It does not announce itself with fireworks or the sudden shattering of the old. We are drawn to these myths, the grand turning points, the dramatic breakthroughs, the one moment that redefines everything. But in truth, transformation does not thunder into our lives. It moves like waters, low, persistent, and nearly invisible, until one day we wake up and realize we've become someone different. Not because of one colossal choice, but because of the small, almost forgettable ones made again and again. We wait for motivation to strike like a spark that will set everything on fire. But fire, uncontrolled, burns fast and dies out. What endures is not intensity, it is rhythm, patterns. Quiet, disciplined repetition that reshapes the self not by force, but by familiarity. The change you long for is not locked in a single heroic act. It's hiding in the ordinary, in the way you begin your morning, in the tone you use to speak to yourself, in what you choose to prioritize when no one is watching. A study published in 2020 by the European Journal of Social Psychology made this point with clarity. New behaviors do not take root through bursts of intensity, but through sustained consistency. It is not how hard you try one day that makes the difference. It is how honestly and regularly you return to the path, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't feel like it, even when nothing seems to be changing. You're not going to build a new life by sprinting. You will build it by walking faithfully, one step at a time, in the same direction. It will be tiring. It will be repetitive. But slowly, beneath the surface, something will begin to shift. Your mind will start to recognize the rhythm. Your nervous system will settle into it. Your identity, that fragile thing you've been carrying all these years, will begin to rewire itself, not through inspiration, but through immersion. You do not need a perfect week. Perfection is a trap. It whispers that unless everything aligns, nothing is worth doing. But perfection is the enemy of progress. What you need is a faithful day. One good, focused, honest day, and then you need another. Not a bigger one, just the same. Repeated 21 times. That's how the inner transformation begins. That's how the subconscious learns to believe the new story you're writing. Not through declaration, but through demonstration. You are telling yourself who you are with every repeated action. When you show up for yourself at the same time every morning, even if it's just for 5 minutes, your inner world takes notice. When you resist the pull of distractions, even just once a day, something inside of you begins to trust your intentions. You are teaching yourself to believe again, not in the abstract possibility of change, but in the quiet reality of it. The world celebrates the peak, the award, the milestone, the breakthrough moment. But the peak is only the result of 100 quiet days no one saw. It's built on the mornings you didn't skip, the routines you repeated even when you were tired, the decision to return to your focus when your mind wanted to wander. The peak is a shadow of the pattern, and without the pattern, the peak doesn't exist. Your life isn't asking you to be extraordinary today. It is asking you to be consistent. It is asking you to choose. Choose what matters. Choose when you rise. Choose what you feed your mind. Choose what you say no to, and then repeat. Not because it's easy, not because you always feel inspired, but because repetition carves character, because rhythm births identity. Because your future self is shaped not by what you dream, but by what you do when no one's watching. Change isn't some far-off destination you arrive at in glory. It is a direction you commit to every single day, even when progress is invisible, even when no one claps, even when you question whether it's working. But trust this: if you remain faithful to the pattern will transform you, not all at once, but absolutely, deeply, and permanently. The aim of this journey is not to become more efficient at doing what you've always done. It is not about packing more tasks into your day or crossing off more boxes on a list that leads nowhere. What is required here is far deeper. It is a transformation of identity, a rebirth of the self. The true challenge is not external, it is internal. You are not simply trying to change your behavior. You are being asked to become someone you have never been before. And that process demands more than discipline. It demands surrender. A letting go of the old self, the worn-out mask, the stories you've told yourself to stay safe and small. Within each of us lives a version of ourselves that has grown comfortable in limitation. This version knows how to make excuses that sound like logic. It knows how to justify delay with clever arguments. It knows how to mask fear with sarcasm, how to call self-sabotage realism, how to avoid growth by pretending to be not ready. And for a while, this identity keeps us safe from failure, from judgment, from the unknown. But over time, it also begins to suffocate us, because while it protects us from pain, it also keeps us from possibility. If you are serious about change, then that old self must die. You must hold a quiet funeral for the part of you that always needed a guarantee before moving forward. You must say goodbye to the version of yourself that broke promises in the dark, who whispered, "Maybe tomorrow," and always meant never. That self was born in fear. It was shaped by wounds. But it is not who you truly are, it is who you became to survive. Now, if you want to live, really live, you must bury it. There is a reason why growth feels like grief. Because to become someone new, you must mourn who you no longer wish to be. And this mourning is sacred. It is not shameful to outgrow your former self. It is a sign of evolution, of courage, of awakening. Too many people try to build a new life on top of an old identity. But you cannot construct a cathedral on sand. You must clear the ground first. You must strip away the layers that no longer serve you, the labels that were never truly yours, the expectations you inherited but never examined. This is where the real work begins, not in achieving more, but in embodying a different presence, in asking a simple but profound question. If I were already the person I wish to become, how would I show up today? What would I focus on? How would I speak to myself? What would I stop tolerating? And then you live that answer. Not someday, not after everything is perfect, but now, today. Not for 21 years, for 21 days. That is how momentum begins. You don't need to believe in the entire journey. You just need to become the future version of yourself in small moments again and again, until the line between who you were and who you are blurs into truth. The world does not need your performance. It does not need your polished explanations for why you are stuck. It needs your transformation. It needs the quiet power that comes when a person finally decides their future is worth more than their familiar past. That kind of decision cannot be made for you. It must rise from within, from a place beyond fear, beyond logic, beyond comfort. There will be resistance. The old self will not die quietly. It will scream for your attention. It will plead for you to return to the safety of what is known. But safety is not the same as freedom. Comfort is not the same as growth. To become someone new is to walk through the fire of discomfort and emerge with something more honest than before. You are not who you used to be, and you are not yet who you will become. You are in the in-between, and it is here, in this sacred tension, that the real transformation begins, not with applause, not with certainty, but with one courageous choice, to act today as though the future you is already real, and then to do it again tomorrow, until the illusion of who you were no longer holds power over who you're becoming. 21 days. That's 504 hours. That's 240 minutes. All that stands between the life you're tolerating and the life you're destined for is your focus. You don't need more time. You need more intensity in the time you already have. Begin now. Start where you are. Let this be your resurrection. Because the world doesn't need another distracted soul. It needs a focused one who dares to rebuild.